Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Crystal, your host of Life Extension Live, and I'm by myself. I'm usually with Dr. Mike, but it's just me today, and we are going to keep the show going. Today's show is all about fasting, or rather, what do you eat when the fast is over? You know, I love the title. So you're done fasting. What now? We know that fasting is it's becoming more and more popular. Back in the day, it used to be more associated with fasting for religious purposes, but now we're seeing research where fasting can be helpful with weight loss, with longevity. So whatever your reason for fasting, you need to make sure you are prepared for the fast, as well as prepared for what you're going to drink, the foods that you're going to eat when you break your fast. And we're going to highlight some of those best foods, my top picks of things to drink and foods to eat when you're fasting. So in today's show, we are going to cover different types of fast and how they work, the best foods and drinks to break your fast, as well as what to avoid when breaking your fast. So before we jump into all of those topics, let's just quickly highlight what fasting is. Now, I know you may be thinking, hey, Dr. Crystal, I know what fasting is, but nowadays there's so many different types of fast, so many definitions of fasting. One thing, it is intentional. It is purposefully where you do not eat food for a given period of time. Now, that's where things get a little bit, I guess, muddy. Maybe you're fasting for 16 hours. Maybe you're fasting for 2 days. Maybe you're doing intermittent fasting. And then there's this new thing called dirty fasting. Have any of you heard of dirty fasting out there? If you have, send a note in the chat. I do have my phone now. I'm trying to get my Life Extension, the show, to load. I may need your help, Robson. We've got Robson, by the way, helping us out. He's one of our videographers, producers, as well as Hannah here. They're keeping me on track. And yes, I think I found you. I'm here with you. Let's see if we can just make this stream live larger on my phone. And there you are. Yes, thank you. And our technicians are on the back end putting in some of my questions into the chat. So yes, have you ever heard of dirty fasting? Jeff, thanks so much for watching. It's this new thing where you're fasting, but you can cheat. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of research around the dirty fasting. We do think that there needs to be more research, but there are significant health benefits associated with fasting, and a lot of those benefits go back to some of the metabolic changes that occur in your body when you're fasting. The body is kind of switching out the nutrients, where it's pulling its reserves to fuel the body, because whether you're eating every day or not, the body needs to make energy. The body needs to run. The brain needs to run. The brain needs glucose. That's its preferred source of sugar for the brain, or the preferred source of fuel for the brain. So some of the metabolic changes that occur, one is the body kind of switches its source of fuel from glucose to maybe we're starting to use fat. Because what happens whenever you have sugar or glucose in your diet, that sugar is stored in the liver, stored in the muscles. Those reserves, the body typically pulls from the liver first when you're fasting. It's stored in the liver as glycogen. You may have heard of that term before. And that glycogen storage there's about 12 to 36 hours of storage of glycogen in the liver. Once those reserves are gone, then your body now is tapping into fat and turning those fat reserves into energy. That's what many of us are hoping for, right? We want to burn fat. Many of us have a little extra, some extra reserves of fat that we would like for the body to shift into more of a fat burning versus shifting or staying in more of a storage state. So those are metabolic conversions. You also see insulin levels decrease in the body. There's some mixed reviews as to whether or not on some of these shorter fasts, like let's say the intermittent fasting, the 16 hours of fasting, the 8-hour window of eating, some mixed research as to whether or not the body's glucose really decreases during that time, but we do see that insulin decreases. You also find that your essential amino acids, we know amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, those essential amino acids decrease significantly. And I want you to put a pin in that note, because when we start looking at foods to eat after, you have to think about protein in those foods. So we kind of already touched on types of fast. Again, there's the intermittent fasting that can be done 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating. That's the type of fasting that I incorporate a couple of times a week, simply because I know that the fasting is kind of putting my body into a survival state. I have young kids. I started my family when I was a little bit older than most. So I want to be able to be alive and be vibrant and be able to run around and play with them and travel with them when they graduate from college, right? Whenever they are bringing in the big bucks, I want to be able to have the energy so that they can take me on vacation. So primarily a longevity focus for me, but there are many ways to do the intermittent fasting. There's the 2-5, you may have heard of that, where it's 5 days, you eat your normal calories, your normal diet, and 2 days where you bring it down, the caloric intake to 3, maybe 500 calories per day. So that is a type of intermittent fasting. This again is putting your body into that, that state of survival. It's also helping overall to reduce the number of calories that you're taking in. So for me, weight loss is not the primary focus, but I am hoping that it's a secondary benefit for me to shed a few pounds, because over the course of a week, you will find with intermittent fasting that your overall calories are a little bit lower. And then, of course, there's the prolonged fasting, the fasting that I grew up in a Christian home, and fasting was a core part of my upbringing. You find it involved with many religious and cultural experiences, the prolonged fasting. And what we're talking about today is very important if you are fasting for longer periods of time, 24, 48 hours of fasting. Then it truly matters the foods that you eat, what you drink when you break your fast. So you ready for my list? First, we are going to start off with my number one thing to drink when you are breaking your fast, and it's watermelon juice. Who knew watermelon juice is a great source of lycopene, an antioxidant that's great for prostate health, cellular health, great for your skin. Like watermelon is rich in vitamin A as well as your B vitamins. And watermelon, what's great about it as something to drink is it's full of water. You need to be hydrated after you fast. And watermelon does not have quite as much sugar as some of your citrus fruits. So that's number one. Drink number two, coconut water. Now, if you watched our show last week, then you know what we're talking about. Coconut is full of minerals. It is full of electrolytes to hydrate you, to restore some of those minerals, those essential nutrients that your body was missing during your fast. So a great way. Drink number three, green tea. Green tea will provide antioxidant polyphenols. We're mostly familiar with EGCG that you find in green tea. A gentle dose of caffeine to kind of give your body a little bit of energy as you're breaking that fast. You can pair it with a little bit, maybe a little bit of honey, some milk, maybe something to add to your green tea. And last, drum roll, bone broth. Are you all familiar with bone broth? It's kind of becoming a thing. It's sort of like a stock if you are making soup, but bone broth, you're cooking it for a longer period of time. And when you cook it for a long time, those bones, whether it's chicken bones or bones from a cow or bones from fish, right? What's happening inside of those bones, you have that bone marrow. That bone marrow is rich in nutrients. You're getting collagen from the bone marrow. That gelatin is also providing those essential proteins. Now, of course, if you're vegan or vegetarian, bone broth is not for you, but you can still try a veggie broth. So those are my top 4 things to drink to kind of start slowly coming out of that fasting state, reintroducing nutrients into your body. Now, you want to eat. You want to grub on food. Here's what you shouldn't do before we get into what you should do. Don't go to a buffet. Start off with something that just kind of works with the body where you're not going to overdo it. Smoothies are a great way. A yogurt smoothie, add in some frozen strawberries, frozen blueberries. That's a great strategy to break your fast there. We see spinach in that smoothie. I love to put spinach in my smoothies as well. Smoothies can help to not make you feel so full, because when you're fasting, we know that the stomach shrinks as well as your gastric motility slows down, which means that the food or the gastric emptying slows. So whenever you do eat something, then you may feel full faster, and it may take a little bit longer for that food to digest. So you don't want to stuff yourself when you're breaking your fast. Of course, soup, one of my favorites, chicken noodle soup is a great soup to add in. Vegetable noodle soup. Noodles are typically a pretty easy food to digest. Maybe even try a tofu soup with tofu. So like a miso soup can also be beneficial, pretty easy to digest. Whole fruit and vegetables. You can never go wrong with just a nice, healthy, colorful salad. Right? Fresh fruit, just try to stay away from the fruit juices though. The fruit juices are just pure sugar. Remember, your insulin is low. Now we're going to have an insulin spike, which your body may overreact, and then you'll have a crash. So that's not, you don't want to just offset all of the benefits that you received from your fast. Eggs, another good strategy. Eggs are a good source of protein, good source of lutein in that yolk. Don't skip the yolk. Not the egg whites. I suggest having your eggs, maybe a boiled egg, and have that yolk so that you can get those good brain nutrients. Get a little bit of cholesterol as well. Remember, you've been fasting, so it's okay, and they're pretty easy to digest. So those are my top things to drink, as well as top foods to eat when you break your fast. And just some key takeaways. Don't overcrowd your digestive system, okay? You want to go slow. Don't break your fast by eating processed foods. Don't break your fast by eating refined foods. Think about all of the benefits. You fasted, you've worked hard to achieve those benefits, whether they are physical benefits or whether it's the fasting and the praying and the meditation, the spiritual benefits. Slowly bring yourself back into the world of food so that you do not mitigate the health benefits of that fasting period. And again, we talked about what not to eat. Don't binge eat, don't go to the buffet, just take it slow. And if you want to read more about the best foods to break your fast, head over to lifeextension.com/fast. There's an article that's going over everything that we covered today on this show and so much more. Again, lifeextension.com/fast. And join us back here next Wednesday, every Wednesday, really, every Wednesday, 3 o'clock. Go ahead and like our channel so that you will get reminders and notifications when we go live. We know you're busy, so use that technology to your advantage so that you will be here with me, you'll be here with Dr. Mike, and you will be with Life Extension. Remember, send us comments, like, share to all your family and friends. If they are regular fasters, then they need to watch this show. We thank you for all of your support. I'm Dr. Crystal. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.